Hello and welcome to the third installment of Chatting Brown with me, Tom. Today I'm going to talk briefly about each one of my Walksnail planes. Currently I've got four. This is them here. The AR Wing Pro, the Dolphin, ZOHD DeltaStrike and the T1 Ranger. I have other planes that are currently all analog, and I'm slowly transitioning over to Walksnail. So I thought I'd give a quick rundown on how I've set each one of them up. It may be useful to some people out there. I know when I'm coming to build, I trawl through the internet looking at as many videos as I can to see how people have mounted this or mounted that. Little designs that may be available online for 3D printing for mounting things. So, you know, I'm just trying to add more information in there that may be useful to somebody going forward during a build. Probably the most interesting one for a lot of people is my T1 Ranger. This is the little T1 that I've built. I bought the kit and I have a, you can see in there, that's a Walksnail 1S Lite VTX. Let's see if I can. I've got a little extra heat sink on there. And this has been out 10 kilometers with a little TrueRc singularity side feed antenna stuck in the phone down in there. The other thing that I've done is just chop the USB cable that came with it and put a USB-C female on there, so I can just update or take images off the camera without having to faff around with getting access in there. I can just put USB-C in there. And finally, the other thing that I have done with it is added a little switch to the side, so when I'm waiting to get satellites, I can have the VTX off and flick it on when we're good to go. I believe it's wired up straight to the flight controller. There's a 5-volt back in there that's more than adequate to supply the voltage for it. So this is the little T1 that's been out 10 kilometers. That was on the 31 firmware. When I changed to the 33 firmware, 6 kilometers was about the max. I then changed and added a helical antenna on my goggles, and that got me to 8 kilometers. But there was definitely a significant difference in the image quality at those distances compared to the earlier firmware. Normally I run a Runcam thumb on the front and a Runcam V1 thumb on the back, just to give you a bit of a rear view. And this one's a bit different. I have these Tmotor 2203.5 2800 kV motors, and I normally run a 4S 21700 pack in there, so it's well packed in there. There's not much room for maneuver, but it flies fine. It takes about 22-23 amps on launch, and when I'm cruising along it's only pulling about 5 amps, so more than sufficient to get out some serious distances. The next plane that I have here, which also uses the 1S VTX, is the ZOHD DeltaStrike. Now it normally comes with a 50mm EDF hidden in there, but I've converted it to a pusher. My philosophy being I'd rather fly around for 10 minutes at 50 miles an hour than 5 minutes at 60 miles an hour, so slight reduction in speed doesn't make any real difference for me. I've blocked up the air intakes, but I've created air outtakes anyway, just in case I decide to unblock them. Again, I've put a switch on for the VTX, so when I'm getting satellites, it won't take too long. The VTX is a little bit, I suppose, less protected than I would like, with it being attached to the underside of the canopy. But fingers crossed we haven't had any issues so far. And in there, there's a little F411 WTE flight controller. So I have GPS actually running off soft serial, which isn't ideal, but this thing doesn't go that far. I mean, I've had it out 1.5 kilometers, because it's all about speed and maneuverability with this thing rather than distance. So I kind of thought it's something that I'm willing to sacrifice. The party piece on this thing though is it lights up like a Christmas tree. Air intakes has a LED strips on the top, LED strips on the bottom, and on the back that turns red when I arm. This is my latest build, which I only finished last week, and I've maidened it and I've had a second flight and everything seems okay with it. It's obviously the AtomRC Dolphin. On the back I have a 2807 1300 kV motor, and I currently have a 950 prop on there, which I know is a bit big for this type of plane, but I thought what the hell, I'll give it a go anyway and see what happens. In this I have the full size VTX with the micro camera, hot lead up the front. I 3D printed a little pedestal for it to sit on, so it's up high, and on the front the canopy I printed off this air intake that directs the airflow straight down onto the VTX, and then there's an exhaust vent to let the air out. The reason that we needed the exhaust vent is because my battery pack perfectly fits into this hole between the two bays, so the air wouldn't have been able to go anywhere, so the exhaust vent happily sorts that out. I'm using a couple of little Rush Cherry 2 antennas on this. It hasn't been out that far. I mean, I've only just maidened it really, so about 0.5 kilometer or so, but everything seemed quite happy in there. Again, I've put a little switch on the power so I can keep this powered off while I'm getting satellites. And I've hot glued a little bulkhead in there just in case the battery slides forward, which happened on the landing of the maiden, and damages anything. It did. The battery did hit the button in there, and it's kind of not quite as clicky as it used to be. Also in here then I have the F405 WMN flight controller, so plenty of UARTs in there. So I'm running inav radar. I also have another connector set up for Express LRS Airport, so I can have a play with some long range telemetry. And the first plane that I experienced digital on, my Sonicmodell AR Wing Pro. It's great when it's in the air and flying, but sometimes getting it there can be tricky, especially on a beautiful calm day. Definitely needs a little bit of airflow over the wings just to give it that little bit of help. It's the stock setup, stock motor, stock ESC. I used to have it on a Rush Solo VTX, and it's been out 20 odd kilometers with on analog. Still left the cable and all there for analog in case I decide to go back to it. But this is the first thing that I put digital into. I had a HD0 freestyle VTX in there, and it was great, but Walksnail arrived, and well, that was a game changer. It's hidden in the little bay in the side. What I did notice was I kept getting overheating warnings. So the exhaust hole is supposed to be generally bigger than the intake, and it's not. So I've had to cut an extra hole there, but as soon as I cut that extra hole, everything was hunky-dory. And I'm running just some small lollipop stubbies, which I've been experimenting with, flying it with the stubbies or flying it with the longer antennas, and to be honest, it makes very little difference. This has been out 20 kilometers with Walksnail on the 33 firmware. Image wasn't great from about 16 kilometers onwards, but it got there, and maybe with the longer antennas it would have got there a bit better. that was running 700 milliwatts, and once things started to go a bit iffy, I changed on the VRX the power up to 1200, but it didn't make any difference. And Chris Rosher's latest video has kind of explained why it maybe wouldn't have made as big a difference as you would have thought, because the power levels are all fairly similar. This also has a little plug that I run inav radar on as well. So yes, that's just a quick overview of my 4 Walksnail planes. If there's anything that I've overlooked, if there's anything in particular you want me to take a photograph of or explain, zoom in on, just let me know. Thank you.